Good evening. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Russia terms Trump's move to sanction its two biggest oil companies counterproductive, and EU's move to shut down its gas ineffective. Global crude oil prices jump by over 5%. Moscow says it will deliver a painful response to any European Union move to seize its frozen assets, as EU leaders meet in Brussels to plan how to use the assets for a €140 billion repatriation loan to Ukraine. US Vice President J.D. Vance says Trump's policy remains that occupied West Bank won't be annexed by Israel, adds that he feels pretty good about the Gaza ceasefire after his talks with Netanyahu in Tel Aviv. And Team India lose the three-match one-day series to Australia in Adelaide despite a hard-fought effort by its bowlers to defend a subpar target of 265. Russia said on Thursday it will deliver a painful response to any move by the European Union to seize its frozen assets. Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, said that any actions with Russian assets without Russia's consent are null and void from the standpoint of international and contract law. The warning came as EU leaders met in Brussels to discuss a plan to use the assets as a basis for a €140 billion reparations loan to Ukraine.
Any confiscatory initiatives from Brussels will inevitably result in a painful response. We will act in full compliance with the principle of reciprocity in international relations based on our own interest and the need to compensate Russia for the damage caused.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has slapped sanctions on Russia's two largest oil companies just days after cancelling the plan to hold a summit with President Vladimir Putin in Budapest. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has termed this significant shift in Washington's stance as a very, very important step for ceasefire. EU leaders have also welcomed the move. US President Donald Trump has imposed sanctions on Russia's two largest oil companies on Wednesday for the first time in his second term. The new sanctions were unveiled one day after plans for a summit between US President Trump and Russian President Putin fell apart. Trump has held off on new sanctions for months, saying he hoped to persuade Russian President Putin to make peace despite growing frustration from the Kremlin leader. He also added that he hoped the tremendous sanctions against Russian oil giants would be short-lived.
Today is a very big day in terms of what we're doing. Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their two big oil companies. And we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled. I think that they'll certainly have an impact. They're massive sanctions. It's sanctions on oil. The two biggest oil companies, among the biggest in the world, but they're Russian. They do a lot of oil. And hopefully it'll push... hopefully he'll become reasonable, and hopefully Zelensky will be reasonable too.
Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, who is in Washington, D.C., hailed Trump's efforts to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict on Wednesday.
What can I do, what can NATO do to support President Trump's vision of ending this war, ending the killing in Ukraine, including what we can do to make sure that Putin accepts the president's view that the two parties should stop where they are. As he said on Friday and on Sunday, I totally support him, and we will see how we can do that.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Wednesday the United States still wants to meet with the Russians despite the sanctions.
Well, we'd still like to meet with the Russians. We still want to, and I think I had a good call with Foreign Minister Lavrov, and we'll follow up on that. We're always going to be interested in engaging if there's an opportunity to achieve peace.
Separately, EU countries on Thursday formally adopted the 19th package of sanctions against Russia, That includes a ban on Russian liquefied natural gas imports. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday hailed US and EU sanctions on Russia's energy sector as very important ahead of the EU summit. He also ruled out making any territorial concessions to Russia.
This decision of 19th package of sanctions is crucial for us. Thank you so much. And today it goes together with the yesterday's decisions of President Trump on energy, also sanctions package. We waited for this. God bless, it will work. And this is very important.
Head of the European People's Party, Manfred Weber, also welcomed the US sanctions on Russian oil, stating that now Europeans and Americans are stronger together. The sanctions involve freezing of all Rosneft and Lukoil assets in the United States, while barring all American companies from doing any business with the two Russian oil titans. Meanwhile, hours after the proposed meeting between US and Russian presidents was cancelled, Putin on Wednesday oversaw a test of Russia's nuclear forces on land, sea, and air to rehearse their readiness and command structure. Bureau Report, DT India. And oil prices surged more than 5% on Thursday after US President Trump targeted Russia's key oil industry with new sanctions. The international benchmark contract, Brent North Sea crude, jumped 5.4%, while West Texas Intermediate was up 5.6%. Russia's foreign ministry warned that the sanctions risk hurting diplomatic efforts to end the Ukraine conflict and that it had developed a strong immunity to them. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz said on Thursday he is confident that European leaders will take steps in addressing the use of Russian frozen assets despite Belgium's concerns. Belgium's Prime Minister had laid out 3 demands for the use of Russian immobilized assets to provide a $163.27 billion loan to Ukraine. Most Russian assets held in Europe are in Belgium because it is home to the Euroclear Securities Depository.
The Belgian Prime Minister and I have discussed this issue several times over the past few days and weeks. I share these concerns, but he is interested in finding a joint solution, and I therefore expect that we will make further progress today.
In other news, senior US officials are in Israel to secure lasting peace with key issues including Hamas disarmament, Israeli troop withdrawals, and the future governance of Gaza. Vice President J.D. Vance said on Thursday, Israel will not annex the West Bank. The statement came a day after Israeli Knesset gave preliminary approval to a bill applying Israeli law to the occupied West Bank, effectively a step towards annexation. The move has drawn strong international opposition and warnings from allies such as United Arab Emirates, which called the annexation a red line.
The West Bank is not going to be annexed by Israel. The policy of the Trump administration is that the West Bank will not be annexed by Israel. That will continue to be our policy. And if people want to take symbolic votes, they can do that. But we certainly weren't happy about it.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who is visiting Israel, also cautioned that Knesset's annexation efforts could endanger President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said on Wednesday that U.S. military killed 2 alleged drug smugglers in a strike against a vessel in eastern Pacific Ocean. The strike is the first known U.S. military operation in the Pacific since President Trump started a new military offensive against the drug trade. This attack has expanded the Trump government's use of military in its counter-narcotics campaign. This has led to at least 7 strikes in the Caribbean and dramatically raised U.S. tensions with Venezuela and Colombia. The strike brings the total number to at least 8, leaving at least 34 people dead. Hegseth said the vessel was known by U.S. intelligence to be involved in illicit narcotics smuggling. It was transitioning along a known narco-trafficking transit route and carrying narcotics. U.S. President Trump and his Colombian counterpart, Gustavo Petro, traded angry threats on Wednesday. Trump said his government had the legal authority to carry out strikes on vessels near Venezuela that are transporting drugs, but it may go back to the U.S. legislature if U.S. decides to start hitting targets on land. Trump also told journalists that he may take very serious action against Colombia because of its role in international narcotics trade. Trump branded Petro a thug, suggested that he was a drug trafficker leading his country to ruin. He also called Petro a bad guy.
Well, he's a thug and bad guy. He's a guy that is making a lot of drugs. We've just, as of today, stopped all payments going to Colombia, the country Colombia. Also, the school Colombia. No, we settled. We made a settlement with him. But no, he's a thug, and he's a bad guy, and he's hurt his country very badly. They're doing very poorly, Colombia. They make cocaine. They have cocaine factories. They grow all sorts of crap that's drugs, bad drugs coming into the United States, goes generally through Mexico. And he better watch it or we'll take very serious action against him and his country. His country is, what he has led his country into is a death trap.
And Petro responded by announcing that he will take legal action in U.S. courts after Trump called him names and threatened serious action against Colombia over drug trafficking. In a post on X, Petro says he would defend himself in court against the slanderous accusations made against him in the U.S. by high-ranking officials. The escalating tensions come as Trump told journalists at the White House that he was suspending all payments to Colombia because of its role in international narcotics trade. In mid-September, Trump decertified Colombia's counter-narcotics efforts, claiming that the country failed to meet its obligations over the past year. Over 23 people were arrested as hundreds of protesters and police clashed for the second night in a row outside an asylum seeker hotel near Dublin. Police launched bricks and fireworks at protesters. The unrest followed at least 6 arrests after tensions flared at a protest at the same location where a police van was also set on fire. The protests were sparked by reports that a 26-year-old man accused of sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl in vicinity of the hotel was an asylum seeker. Authorities have not yet commented on the claim. Ireland's Prime Minister condemned the violent protest and vile abuse against police. Ireland and the UK have seen rising anti-immigration sentiment in recent years, with hotels housing asylum seekers common flashpoints for protests and violent riots. Let's now turn to more news from around the world. Tens of thousands of Viktor Orban supporters marched in Budapest on Thursday to show support for the nationalist premier on a key Hungarian anniversary as he faces the most acute threat to his 15-year rule from a pro-EU opposition party ahead of the 2026 elections. In the main hall of the Grand Egyptian Museum in Egypt's Giza stands the colossal statue of ancient Egyptian king Ramesses II, one of the country's most iconic monuments, welcoming visitors touring the site ahead of the museum's official opening on November 1st. More than 200 international galleries from around 40 countries gathered under the glass roof of the Grand Palais for the 4th edition of Contemporary Art Fair at Art Basel, Paris, which will take place from Friday to Sunday in the French capital, shaken by the spectacular theft at the Louvre Museum. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Prime Minister Modi to address ASEAN-India Summit virtually. And UK's King Charles III becomes the first head of Church of England to pray publicly with the Pope at the Vatican.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. King Charles and Pope Leo prayed together at the Vatican Sistine Chapel on Thursday in the first joint worship, including a British monarch and a Catholic pontiff, since King Henry VIII broke away from Rome in 1534. Latin chants and English prayers echoed through the chapel, where the Pope was elected by the world's Catholic cardinals 6 months ago. Earlier in the day, Britain's King Charles and Queen Camilla had a private meeting with Pope Leo at the Vatican. The King and Queen Camilla are on a state visit to Vatican, marking closer ties between the Catholic Church and Anglican Communion 5 centuries after their turbulent separation. At the invitation of Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will virtually attend the 22nd ASEAN-India Summit on 26th of October. Prime Minister Modi and ASEAN leaders will jointly review the progress in ASEAN-India relations. They will discuss initiatives for strengthening comprehensive strategic partnership. Strengthening the relationship with ASEAN is a key pillar of India's Act East policy and Indo-Pacific vision. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will represent India at the 20th East Asia Summit in Kuala Lumpur on 27th October. And East Asia Summit will provide an opportunity to deliberate on challenges to peace, stability and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. A new book titled Modi's Mission, authored by renowned lawyer and writer Burgess Desai, will be released on Friday in Mumbai by Maharashtra Governor Acharya Devvrat and Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. The book traces Prime Minister Modi's inspiring journey from a humble childhood in Vadnagar to his emergence as the nation's leader.
Author Burgess Desai describes Modi's mission not as a biography, but as a story of an idea, the idea of national resurgence and self-reliance. The book explores the formative experiences from Modi's early years that shaped his views on governance, leadership and social transformation. It also reflects on how the Prime Minister, despite facing challenges and criticism, rose as an instrument of national awakening.
It is to explain his personal spiritual journey, the mindset which evolved during extremely hard conditions during his childhood, which still people do not know. How he left home permanently at 17, his sadhana and siddhi during those 2.5 years when he was in the Himalayas and in the northern parts of the country, and all the spiritual experiences he had. And then how he has implemented this mindset, this idea of what motivates him is service. It has been a continuous story of service and sacrifice.
The author examines major policy milestones, including the formalization of India's economy, the abrogation of Article 370, and the government's push for transparent and result-oriented governance. Desai also discusses what he calls the false narratives spread by a section of the intellectual class attempting to discredit Modi's leadership.
The palpably false narratives which have been spun by a section of the intellectual elite, the Western media and some of our left-leaning historians, who obviously cannot assail his impeccable integrity and his administrative acumen and his relentless hard work and all. He is a transformative leader, and one day he will be judged on par. The Mahatma will be remembered for 1947, and when Viksit Bharat happens, Modi will be remembered for 2047.
A Mumbai-based lawyer and a former journalist, Burgess Desai brings his sharp analytical lens to present Modi's mission as an engaging account of the Prime Minister's methodical approach towards strengthening India's civilizational identity and building an efficient welfare state. Shama Mishra's report from Mumbai for DD India.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh released a Defence Procurement Manual 2025 at a function in New Delhi on Thursday. Effective from November 1st this year, the new procurement manual will facilitate revenue procurement amounting to approximately Rs 1 lakh crore by 3 services and other establishments under Ministry of Defence. Appreciating the efforts of the Ministry of Defence and HQ Integrated Defence Staff and the revision of the manual, the Minister expressed confidence that new manual will simplify the procedures, bring uniformity in functioning, and will be helpful in providing goods and services required by the armed forces for operational preparedness. The second edition of Indian Navy's biannual Commanders Conference 2025 is being held over a period of 3 days in New Delhi from 22nd to 24th October. The conference assumes greater significance in the backdrop of Operation Sindoor and the Navy's high tempo of operations and combat preparations. Addressing the conference on Thursday, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said that Operation Sindoor was a symbol of India's willpower and capability and a message to the world that we are always ready to respond to every challenge. The minister commended the Indian Navy for creating a deterrent posture that forced Pakistan to remain in harbour or near its coast, asserting that world witnessed the operational readiness, professional capability and strength of the Navy during the operation. He described Indian Navy's presence in Indian Ocean region as a matter of comfort for the friendly nations and discomfort for those who seek to destabilize the region. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is on an official visit to Germany. During his visit, the minister engaged in roundtable discussions with CEOs of German Mittelstand, the small and medium enterprises and Indian businesses. Minister Goyal highlighted the vast opportunities India offers in innovation and sustainable manufacturing and discussed ways to deepen collaboration between Indian and German companies. The Union government is set to organize a major conference on the Emerging Science, Technology and Innovation Conclave ESTIC 2025 in Delhi from 3rd to 5th of November. A key focus of this conclave will be artificial intelligence for social impact. DD India correspondent Akhilesh Suman spoke exclusively with Secretary of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology S. Krishnan on this subject.
With me is Secretary of Ministry of Electronics, Mr. S. Krishnan. Mr. Krishnan, you are going to organize the very important conclave, and you are launching today that AI for social impact. So, what do you mean by this, and how it will impact?
The Emerging Science, Technology and Innovation Conclave is an event which replaces or which is coming in place of the Indian Science Congress, which was hosted or with 108 editions of which have been held in the past. Now it is coming in a different and a new form, focusing primarily on the kind of impact that science and technology can have on both innovation and development. So that is, I think, the primary theme of the ESTIC, which is the conclave which is being held from November 3rd to 5th. In that, this year, 11 themes have been identified, and one of the 11 themes is AI for social impact. AI, artificial intelligence, is the technology of the day. Everybody is speaking about it, and what impact that AI would have on society at large, on our economic fortunes, is something which will be highlighted by a galaxy of experts from academia, from science, from industry and from various other fields, from public policy and various other fields. And that would be, I think, a very valuable input into India's discourse on how we address the whole issue of AI.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So I think India is going to make a big experiment on AI, and given the fact that India is the largest population in the world, how AI can impact society in India, the government programs, it will be good to see. Akhilesh Suman for DD India in Delhi.
ISRO Chairman V. Narayanan spoke at the Curtain Raiser event for the Emerging Science, Technology and Innovation Conclave. ISRO Chairman Narayanan emphasized India's expanding role in global science and technology.
There is a committee with the principal scientific advisor as the chairperson, with all secretaries involved, and we are working towards that. And here you will understand the entire countries, the science and technology, engineering, technology, science, everything is going to be showcased. There are 10 thematic sessions, and then every department is going to showcase their activities, their targets. So you will understand in a big way, and we are going to bring Nobel laureates are going to participate, and the other scientists from other important countries are going to participate, and our own key people are going to contribute. It is going to be a very, very important milestone, and this event is going to happen almost every year.
In cricket, batter Matthew Short guided Australia to a 2-wicket win against India in the second one-day international in Adelaide. Short top scored with 74 runs. Cooper Connolly remained unbeaten on 61 as the hosts chased 265 runs target in 46.2 overs. Earlier, Rohit Sharma hit a patient 73 as India posted 264 runs for the loss of 9 wickets. Shreyas Iyer was also impressive in a 118-run stand with Sharma. Leg spinner Adam Zampa was the pick of the bowlers with 4 wickets for 60 in 10 overs. Australians have clinched their 3-match series 2-0 as they had won the opener in Perth. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan this QR code on the screen and download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.